Cool. All right. You ready to roll?
Let's do it.
All right. Welcome back to the Predictable Revenue Podcast. I'm your host, Colin Stewart. Today, I'm joined by Noah Berk, the co-CEO of Aptitude8, and we're going to talk about product market fit from a services perspective. Before we jump in, this episode is brought to you by Predictable Revenue's founder coaching services. Founders, let's be real. Scaling a company is hard. You're juggling product, revenue, and a million other decisions. But what if you had a proven framework and expert guidance to help you navigate the chaos? That's where our founder coaching service comes in. Whether you're trying to find your first customers or fine-tuning your go-to-market strategy, we're here to help. Welcome to the Predictable Revenue Podcast, where sales leaders teach you what's working for them so you can build it yourself. And now, Noah, I understand you started the life of your first company or most recent company before you merged in cold email, and I'd love to hear the story.
Sure. So me and my co-founder, we started initially the OBO group, which to give some context here, recently merged with Aptitude8, two HubSpot elite solution partners. Obviously, I just fast forwarded 8 years in our history to explain where the merger came from. But prior to that, when we first got started back in 2016, me and my partner were looking to do something cool. And we said, hey, what can we do? We want to be business partners with each other. He's very much an operations guy. I'm very much more on the sales side. And we knew sales and marketing was going to be a big thing. And we knew sales and marketing alignment was eventually going to be a big thing. But obviously, you got to generate revenue to create a business. And we said, well, what's the first thing we can do? And at the time, it was cold email marketing. And no one was really doing it yeah.
With love.
Yeah, right. No one was really doing it at the time. And so we started off with essentially cold email marketing. We had a sister company who was a digital marketing agency, like, hey, start on us. And I think in the very first day we were sending out emails, we must have gotten 8 or 9 positive responses to set up appointments out of like 100 email sends. We're like, wow, this is amazing. This is going to work so fantastic. And it did temporarily, I'll say. The challenge is everyone wants it. And there's a few things that end up happening there is either A, you do such a good job, they don't need you anymore because you got them all the leads in the world they needed. B, you simply run out of leads to email or to reach out to that's in their demographic. Or C, you just didn't get them the results they were looking for and they don't want to continue. So there's always a expiration date oftentimes on these engagements.
100%. And then you started at a really interesting time in cold email because at that point in 2016, cold email still worked pretty well with some pretty basic stuff. And I think SPF was out. DKIM might have been out, but DMARC hadn't come out yet. And between 2016 and 2018 is we saw, and Google launched their TensorFlow anti-spam tools, and we saw reply rates just plummet. And so that must have been like, oh, we're geniuses, we're kings of the world. And then like a year later, just the bottom's falling out of the business.
Yeah, well, very quickly we pivoted.
Good job.
We were like, this is not a long-term sustainable business, writing cold emails, setting up cold email platforms, sending out email. I mean, listen, it's still a business. I think there's probably, I get like at least a dozen emails a day saying I want to do your outbound email marketing. But at the time, we were also getting into marketing automation systems. And clients were like, hey, you're doing cold email marketing. Can you also just do our content marketing or newsletter marketing, set up marketing automation, set up our newsletters? And so we started getting into marketing automation originally with a system called Mautic, which I'm not sure if you heard of, but it's an open source marketing automation system. It's still in existence to this day.
Cool.
And we're like, yeah, let's start with that. HubSpot was there. I'll get to that in a minute. But we're like, oh, market automation, that'll be awesome. We can go in, you can set this up for clients. And there's more professional services work, not just the actual act of actually sending the emails. And so started using Mautic. Then we learned pretty quickly when you deal with open source, it sometimes does stuff on its own, such as send a million emails that was never meant to be sent. No. Yeah. So we had a few of those instances. And a couple of those instances, a couple of times getting burned, you're like, well, let's go look for the best platform on the market. And that ended up being HubSpot. And HubSpot was on this upward trajectory. So around 2017, 2018, we became HubSpot partners. And started to grow from there and just kind of switch what we were focused on.
I love it. So you started off on it's funny. So Aaron, my co-founder, in the original entity that started as predictable revenue, or the I started a company, Aaron started a company, we merged in 2014.
Yeah.
And Aaron and Brian, from the founder of HubSpot, are buddies or know each other. And Brian,
Hmm.
HubSpot's all inbound, inbound, inbound. And I
Correct.
remember one of the first SaaSters, we were a sponsor and HubSpot was a sponsor. And like, obviously HubSpot was a much, much, much bigger sponsor, but Brian was walking by our booth all the time and he'd look at us and like give us the finger and smile. And like, not in an actual, like being a dick way, but just a funny, like, you're the two opposite ideologies. And it always just, yeah, that always stuck
Well,
with me. Just like what a
the
funny,
fun,
silly guy he was.
yeah, yeah, he's great. The funny thing about it is, what wasn't really ever talked about was how much outbound they were doing. So the whole concept was about inbound marketing, but their
Mhm.
sales teams were all outbound marketing. I mean, don't get me wrong, they were getting tons of leads coming in. It was a combination of both, but it was very much outbound motion.
Mhm.
And even to this day, it's very much outbound. I mean, they call their conference inbound, but they still do a tremendous amount of outbound. I mean, they pretty much know everyone in the market at this point. So it's not like anyone's not familiar with who they are. But
Yeah.
no, Brian is fantastic. I've always enjoyed my conversations with him, and it's just amazing what they've done with the company.
100%. I've had the luxury of interviewing Mark Roberge a few times, and
Oh, cool.
he's just like, I loved his book, Sales Acceleration Formula.
Yes.
Formula was spectacular. Other than right in the middle of the book, you could tell Brian's like, you have to put this page in, and it was like a big fu to outbound. And I'm like, guys, I can see in your LinkedIn you have 100 BDRs. So like, what the hell is this
Yes.
page about?
I get the whole concept. I get the outward vision versus probably what they were doing inside. So
Totally.
uh, yeah, so we ended up becoming HubSpot partners,
Right
and
on.
we were actually doing more than just HubSpot. We were doing traditional marketing agency work as well, but very quickly we realized we enjoyed being on the tech end of things, um, and so started to grow from there.
Cool. So the idea came from, you did cold email outbound. You're like, this is horrible. Let's do something different. Totally understand. As somebody who's done cold email outbound for a long time, I get it. You were correct. Probably the smarter person on this podcast for pivoting away from it much quicker than I did. Um, how did you think about the validation of it? I guess it was just customers are pulling you in, so we're going to follow the demand there.
Yeah, I mean, that was part of it. I mean, we were reaching out to people via our own cold email marketing saying, hey, listen, this works, check it out. Here's some examples. So, I mean, we were getting pretty creative with our copy.
Mhm.
Um, and those very first clients also ended up becoming our first market automation clients. Those were the companies who were hiring us, say, hey, we need our backend systems all set up. We need to organize it. And so very quickly we got into market automation. We also got into CRMs, eventually service. And because there was only so much professional services with HubSpot at the time, we
Mhm.
also got pretty extensive into Salesforce because there was a lot more professional services associated with setting up Salesforce than there was setting up HubSpot at the time. HubSpot was, at that time, very simple to use. There's only so much you needed from a third party company. And that's why there was a lot of marketing agencies who to this day still work with HubSpot because back in the day, 2008 or 2018, 2019,
Mhm.
2020, it was still relatively on the simple end. It wasn't until they rolled out their CRM product, Sales Hub, did the product start really becoming more sophisticated where you could actually build a professional service organization around HubSpot.
Mhm.
And it still took years before you could generate the type of revenue as if you were a Salesforce professional services shop.
Totally. So your first customers came from kind of your own outbound efforts and kind of
Mm.
customers pulling you in. I'm curious. I mean, how did you and your co-founder decide, hey, let's pivot from, we're doing all this cold email. It works. It's very sellable because everybody wants it, but it's very hard to
Everyone.
make companies successful in the long run with it. Just finding clients that are patient enough to invest for the long haul is challenging. How did
Yeah.
you validate the decision? Was it very clearly like outbound sucks, inbound's cool, let's go? Or was it more nuanced than that?
I think it was a couple of things. One, it's very hard to if all you're doing is outbound marketing, you're very much judged based upon whatever those results are. And that's not a bad thing to be judged based upon your results and what
Mhm.
you're bringing to a particular client. But there wasn't really it was a very transactional relationship with our
Mhm.
clients, and it wasn't something that really excited us that much. We were good at it, but it didn't really excite us. What really excited us was the evolution of the technology supporting companies' marketing efforts. CRM efforts, and understanding, going back to our initial vision of sales and marketing alignment, we were starting to see, well, companies actually need people who can come in and think through sales and marketing alignment. Now, this is even before the terminology RevOps was even a thing. RevOps didn't become a thing until later on when you think of sales, marketing, service operations, and really creating a full funnel loop. And so we were pretty early on. But what we also started to realize is companies were, when we moved and pivoted more to being that back end operations team for a company, it was a much more sticky relationship as well. So it led to longer term relationships with our clients. And they also felt there was more value associated with it, especially now because you can use these systems to market to existing customers, help with upsell, cross sell, promotions. And it also didn't feel spammy, just not to say what we were doing was spammy. Obviously you're allowed to do cold outbound email marketing to B2B businesses, but it felt very much more, it felt genuine. It felt better.
I hear you. So you decided to make the call, or you decided to make the pivot and into the lighter side of the sales and marketing world. And again, if you're listening, I'm and you don't understand or you're missing the context, I'm not crapping on outbound. I did it myself for 100 years, maybe 150 years. So I am the pot calling the kettle black, I think, or I don't know, whatever you want to call it. I'm curious about, where did your next customers come from? Because it's one thing to be pulled into a particular direction, but that can be, you're kind of pulling yourself out of this niche that you had established, and you're going into this new area where now we got no pipeline for this. We've had a few customers pull us in this direction. Was it simply, let's just change the messaging in our outbound campaigns and everything worked marvelously?
No, not quite that way. I wish so. So a couple of things were happening. One, we were getting customers through referrals. So we had this relationship with a sister company that was a marketing agency. They were sending us like, hey, this company wants to set up HubSpot or Salesforce. Can you support them? We were getting some leads from our website as well. We were getting some leads just from our own outbound efforts. But also at the time when we were making this pivot, we were also doing marketing agency stuff. We were doing some SEO, some PPC. So even though a bulk of our revenue is coming from technology, I mean, at the time you just grab revenue from wherever revenue is coming from, so you keep the lights open. I know it's not the most thoughtful strategy. If I can go back, I'm like, hey, pick a niche and focus on it and go all day at that niche. I mean, that's the correct advice.
But it's honest.
It's
what everybody actually does.
Exactly. It's like, I need to keep the lights on. I will take this revenue. And that's really what we were doing for quite some time. I mean, I used to think it was impressive. We got one lead a week, maybe 3 to 4 leads a month. And I'm like, heck yeah, we're doing awesome right now. And it was a lot of just reaching out, referrals. It was a lot of, I did some cold calling. I did my own email marketing. It's the same stuff we were teaching clients how to do, we were doing ourselves. But what ended up happening as we started getting these clients, agency clients, different types of clients, we started to realize like what work we really like doing and what work we're really good at. And it was really the technology side of things. And so kind of fast forwarding 2019, 2020, now we're getting involved in Salesforce. We also became Monday.com's first partner in North America, which you guys have all probably heard of. Yeah, and I have I have a separate company that we spun out of the OBO group called Orange Dot. That's a completely company that does everything on its own at this point. It's fun to watch their success, but they became, at the time, we were doing HubSpot, we were doing Salesforce, we were doing Monday.com, and we're just growing that way. And part of the reason we were growing is because companies were looking for someone who could do HubSpot and Salesforce, HubSpot and Monday, Salesforce and Monday. So we actually started getting referrals coming to us because people started finding out about what we do, and they were looking for a technology consultancy who knew those platforms. And so we kind of made a bet like, hey, listen, we're going to pivot away from doing marketing related services and anything of that sort to just focus on technology. And then the other big revelation was about 2019, 2020, HubSpot rolled out their Sales Hub product. At least it had been around, but was going in a bigger scale. And they were looking for partners who could essentially set it up. And so we're like, hey, we can do that. And we became HubSpot's first advanced implementation certified partner in the world. So all of a sudden that put us on the map, and all of a sudden we started getting leads from HubSpot. And HubSpot was bringing us in to migrate people from Salesforce to HubSpot, to integrate HubSpot with Salesforce, integrate HubSpot with Monday. So all of a sudden our lead channel went from us trying to cold call and do outreach to reps bringing us into deals, and then people finding us on the HubSpot directory. So that really kind of led to a lot of our growth.
That's fantastic. There's nothing better than having a major partner bring you in and saying, these are the folks that can do this type of work. It's like cheating
Agreed. And yeah, it is.
in the
like,
best kind of way.
yeah. So kind of fast forward a couple more years, I think the challenge happens is that at the time we were doing HubSpot, Salesforce, and Monday.com. And although it was a great strategy at first, you become, jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah.
And it's too hard to be focused in three different verticals. And so that's when we decided to pull back from Salesforce, even though we still have Salesforce experience and chops at this business, split out the Monday.com practice as its own separate company, and then focus solely on HubSpot to really niche on that particular market opportunity.
Gotcha.
And it was great.
What made HubSpot
it is great. Still is.
Yeah. What made HubSpot the answer for you?
Well, we took a bet that as HubSpot continues to go up market, there's going to be more and more professional services associated with the product. And we like the product a lot. So we're like, hey, this is a really good product. It's competing more and more against Eloqua, more and more against Marketo and Service Cloud, especially with the rise of the HubSpot Sales Hub piece. We say there's going to be more opportunity here helping to figure out how to get this product to where it is. And we also realized being so early in the ecosystem, we're growing as the product's growing. So we know the intimate details of how the product works better than our competition. So immediately we say, okay, there's going to be a moat that we're just building simply because we've been in this ecosystem so long that we're understanding the product better than how other companies may understand the product. And then also it made it easy because HubSpot was sending us so much business. So like,
yeah, money's falling out of the sky. We just got to build a bigger tarp to catch it.
Yeah. So, I mean, part of the strategy here from a professional services, and you see the same thing in the Salesforce ecosystem, the same thing in the Monday ecosystem, like our Monday practice, majority of their business, is still driven by Monday relationships, bringing that need a professional services organization to help set up Monday. And same thing applies up to date. Large portion of our business, we're being brought in by corporate enterprise reps who help assist on selling. So it makes it a really attractive called marketplace to be involved in, especially if those opportunities are coming to us.
Love it. Yeah. And from I guess, how did you know, describe the moment you felt like we have product market fit? We're settled in, we're going to do the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
What did that feel like?
So it kind of took a little while. We knew we had product market fit back during the beginning of COVID, 2020 and 2021 period, where we were just especially everyone's trying to go digital. And whereas everyone else's business was going down to the right, ours is going up and to the, right. I'm not sure that's the best metaphor analogy, but anyway, I think you're following. We're going up and to the right.
Things were good.
And so and we kept getting leads from HubSpot. We were getting leads from Monday. We were building relationships in Salesforce, and it wasn't very difficult to generate business. I would say. And we also started to say, listen, if we're going to staff the talent to do the business, we need to focus. So if I try and have a marketing agency plus a technical consultancy, those are two different totally type people. How you sell is different. How you pitch clients is different. What you put on your website is different, et cetera, et cetera. And we said, well, let's just focus on technical consultancy. You're going to notice a trend here. We just kept getting rid of stuff. First get rid of cold email, then get rid of marketing related services and technical. Then get rid of Salesforce and, move on from Monday, spin that out, and then just focus HubSpot. Okay. And we just keep narrowing our focus to, it was about end of 2023, beginning of 2024 that we said, okay, now we're just focused on HubSpot as a practice because we see there's enough recurring revenue. Clients are signing up for longer term contracts. You need someone who can actually help you manage and run your HubSpot instance, which was a big wake up call. And also the project size were getting bigger, the clients were getting larger, and we were also having the momentum of being one of HubSpot's elite partners. There's less than 1% of elite partners in the world. And we say, let's double down on what we're great at. And so I'd say the end of 2023, 2024, I know from 2016 to then, we were running a profitable business, but it wasn't until then that all of a sudden we started scaling pretty rapidly. Because now we knew we were a HubSpot shop. We positioned our website as a HubSpot shop. We positioned everything around us as HubSpot, all the information. Now all marketing is aligned. Everyone in the organization, what do you need to work on in your free time? Work on HubSpot related, courses, or work on this or work on that. So from our talent all the way to our sales and marketing, everything was aligned around being the best in the world at HubSpot. And then you fast forward to today, and UpToDate is the number 2 HubSpot solutions partner in the world, according to HubSpot.
Wow. That's got to feel pretty good.
It does. I want to be number 1 though. That's what we're aiming for this year.
Yeah. Whose legs do we need to break in order to get there?
Oh, I know, but I like the guy too. He's a nice guy. He runs a shop out in Europe.
Oh, cool. Number 1 based North American shop then. There you go. You just got
to
niche down.
There we go.
Found it.
Yeah. So you start building on top of the momentum, and it just keeps going from there. But you got to find that product market fit. You got to find an industry you enjoy working in. And also you got to ask yourself, what can you be the best at? And then how do you maintain that? And especially as HubSpot's going up market, enterprise, now you have to build new skill sets, and new ways of delivering services that again continues to build a moat around what services you provide yourself.
I imagine there must have been hundreds, if not thousands, of other HubSpot consultancies that were also doing work that also had smart founders that were willing to hustle and put the work in. What do you think it was that made HubSpot double down on you? Because I think if you trace the line, like a lot being, as a services business, making it being easy to find new revenue and to have great longevity and to have a support of somebody like HubSpot, these are rarities amongst services businesses.
Yes.
I imagine they had the pick of the litter. So handsome CEO, was it knowledge of horticulture? Like, what was it that made them choose you?
We have a philosophy here. We have 3 customers. We have our customer, we have our internal team, and we have our partner, HubSpot. And we treat HubSpot as such. So we treat HubSpot with a high level of service. And we also focused on developing a co-selling methodology that enabled them to win more business. So they're able to go back to reps, start talking to other reps. They start saying, wow, these guys are helping us win big business. They know what they're doing. We trust them. They invest a lot into a co-selling motion. We're structured unlike most other HubSpot solution partners at this day and age, both with our AEs, the solution architects, to our customer experience team, to our account managers. But the same thing in terms of how we deliver projects. We have project management, dedicated project management, technical project management, devs, SEs. We have consultants, we have delivery leads. So we have this rich mix of individuals who are able to not only help HubSpot sell and close more business, but also able to help identify upsell opportunities in the back end for HubSpot. So it was really focused on how can we sell better with HubSpot that enabled us to give us an edge in the marketplace. And when you say thousands, there's actually 7,000 solution partners worldwide. So just a few.
Yeah. I think we actually signed up for one because Aaron knew all the folks in HubSpot. And I feel like we signed up in 2017, 2018. And I remember being like, I don't love this work, so I'm not going to double down on it. And in hindsight, it was probably, it's obviously it would have been a great motion for us because we had all these ins with HubSpot, but it comes back to was I the founder to build that? And absolutely not, because I don't love HubSpot. I don't love the marketing side of things. I don't like that they didn't like outbound. And there was just something about the way it worked that was better looking, but it rubbed me the wrong way. And it was probably because I started using Salesforce in 2005 and it was there was no actual, right or wrong. It was just different from what I'm used to. And so therefore equals bad. So not an intelligent decision, but more of it's just not what I'm accustomed to.
And honestly, when you were looking at it back then, it wasn't anywhere where you couldn't involve a Salesforce at the time.
No.
You could maybe move your marketing cloud, at the time Pardot over to HubSpot because the HubSpot's main product was integrating HubSpot with Salesforce. But as a CRM, it wasn't able to do what a lot of companies want. Nowadays, it's a direct competitor to Salesforce. I mean, we work with incredibly large organizations, thousands and thousands of seats. We're migrating from Salesforce to HubSpot because it's that sophisticated and it's that capable now of a product. But when you were there, I get it. Trust me, I pulled out my hair plenty of times trying to clients say I want to do this, and it seemed like it was table stakes. The next thing you know, it's can't be done.
Yeah, there's still a couple of things, and I don't need to double click on them. And just to be fair, there's also a number of things in Salesforce that you're like, why in the hell does it not work this way? What were you thinking?
Agreed.
You've been around since 1999, 80, and it doesn't you can't do this. It seems so simple.
Yeah.
But I don't want to get into like team red or team blue versus team
Yeah, of
orange, because I
course.
don't think there's any value in that conversation. They're both good. Depends on what
Yeah.
color you like.
Agreed.
Um, I want to double click on your co-selling methodology. I think this is something that's so interesting. The majority of service companies I've talked to, the majority of startups I've talked to, struggle to get any value out of a partnership relationship, myself included. I've had a number of partner calls, and I've only had a very few of them that have actually produced any revenue for me. So tell me what you did differently.
Yeah. So I think we also have, God, every day I get emails from someone who wants me to sell their app that's built on HubSpot.
Mhm.
And so we have go to market partners, and then we have a referral partner relationship. 99% of the time, the referral partnership. So, for example, if someone needs a calling system, we may recommend Kixie.
Mhm.
If someone needs a SMS, we'll recommend another solution. And they want to do go to market actions with us, but it's not worth it. One, we don't
Mhm.
generate enough revenue off of those software sales. Two, they're more of an add on. There's no real differentiator.
Mhm.
And then, unlike HubSpot, which is our core product where we can actually make professional services fee, I mean, our bulk of our revenue comes from professional services. And so, what attracted us to HubSpot wasn't necessarily the commission, although that's great. It's the amount of professional services dollars that we can generate on these engagements. And so when we were looking at the co-selling motion, and maybe that's really my sales background, is I said, hey, listen, we need to put a lot of effort towards selling better with
Mhm.
HubSpot. And if you're going to help them sell bigger, larger deals, you need the technical expertise at the front of the sales process to help assist in closing these deals. And that means you need to be polished, not just in terms of how you scope and how you put together proposals, but also how you can build a narrative for why HubSpot is going to help the client achieve whatever dream they want to achieve. So we just put a lot of effort into how do we better sell with them to get
Mhm.
wins. So we really developed an entire methodology from, okay, a lead comes in, how do we communicate about it? What are all the steps? It was clearly defined for their sales reps. Like, this is what's supposed to happen, A, B, C, D.
Mhm.
Here's what we're going to be in charge of. Here's what you guys are going to be in charge of. So everyone's on the same page. We put systems in place for easy communication, easy feedback loops for what's going on. So I think there's like, if you're a HubSpot partner, a Salesforce partner, a Workday partner, a ServiceNow partner, like those are true like solution partners versus a lot of apps out there like, hey, let's be partners together. But it's certainly not worth the go to market effort it's going to require to be an effective partner. You're better off just saying, I'm happy to send you a lead if I get it,
Mhm.
versus building your business off of that because one, there's not a pro serve revenue to support your business.
Mhm.
And two, it's more of an add on versus a standalone application. Now, we originally thought that about Monday.com. We thought
Mhm.
Monday.com was just going to be like an app partner that we just refer to, not realizing, oh my God, there is a lot of work to do in a Monday.com. There's a lot of professional services. So I think I talk about how HubSpot, I think in North America, there's like 3,000 partners. Put in comparison, there's like 40 in the Monday.com ecosystem. So a lot less competition as well.
Hmm. That's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think there's one of the biggest ones is here in Vancouver, in North Vancouver.
Eligio, I just gave him a shout out.
Oh, nice.
He's a
Yeah,
good friend of mine, Derek.
I ran into him at a conference I was speaking at last year, I think. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
he's
we
great.
geeked out on CRM.
Okay.
My first
Yeah.
startup was a
Derek, if
CRM.
you're hearing this, I just said you guys are great. But also, Orange.digital is the Monday.com practice you want to check out.
Right on. I really appreciate hearing the journey and learning and kind of getting a chance to understand a little bit about your journey. I'm curious, what comes next?
Yeah, so we wanted to kind of make that next leap. So we merged with one of our competitors in the HubSpot ecosystem called Aptitude 8. Combined, we are the largest pure play technical consultancy in the ecosystem now. And our goal is very quite simple to become the number one in the entire ecosystem. Right now, we're number two, so it helps to be able to say we're going to become number one here.
Mhm.
But for us as an organization, it means traveling where HubSpot's going. HubSpot's continue to go up markets, continue to go enterprise. So that means we're going to continue to improve our methodology for how we deliver work, how we expand upon our work. Obviously, AI is the buzzword of the day. But it's
Mhm.
probably more than just, it's not probably, it is more than just a buzzword, but also how do we incorporate AI into both our internal, how we get work done, as well as the services we provide to clients externally.
Mhm.
So one of the things we constantly talk about is staying at the bleeding edge. We always have to push the boundaries of what the technology is capable of doing. Our job is to recruit and hire the best talent to work at Aptitude 8 so we can deliver the best work on behalf of our clients. So it's creating a world-class culture that everyone wants to come work at, creating an environment that everyone's like, man, I get to do the most fun work possible. I get to be at the leading edge of this particular industry. And I want everyone to feel as though if you're working at Aptitude 8, you are working at the best. Hold your head high. So for me, it's part of, I like to win. I like to not only know we're doing the best, but be the best in the space. And we're all constantly trying to say, how do we build a bigger moat between us and everyone else?
I love that. Noah, if anybody's curious about Aptitude 8, they're looking for help with HubSpot, or they just have a question for you, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Yeah, absolutely. Check me out on LinkedIn, Noah Berk, Berk. You can also check out our website, aptitude8.com. Lots of great information on that particular website. Or feel free to shoot me an email, noah@aptitude8.com. Happy to chat, see how I can help.
Noah, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was really great to hear the story, man.
I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for asking these questions. I've enjoyed it.
Right on. And thanks to everybody for listening. We'll catch y'all next time.